And welcome to the 24th Ionic VIPER SLiTHER. I am Chip Notaro from Lafayette College. I am going to host what is going to be likely our most unique SLiTHER to date. Um, Today's SLiTHER is coming to you live from our content building workshop at the University of Texas at Arlington. This was originally scheduled to happen in the summer of 2020, and for reasons that I think should be obvious to everyone, that didn't quite happen. We were able to make it happen here in 2021. Um, we've had some complications. Travel was a little complex for a number of people. They left me in charge all by myself for a period of time that is terrifying, but Hillary eventually made it in, and then Nicole got in. So we're full on board with our leadership council members and all of our participants. We've got 15 people here from all over the place, ranging from tenured faculty to graduate students. And we've been doing some work revising and updating some learning objects on the VIPER site. We've been talking about different ways to assess and develop rubrics and things along those lines. We've had a wonderful talk by Professor Robin Macaluso from UTA, and they've been working on developing some learning objects that are based on Robin's work. One of those is under review right now, and we have several more that should be going under review here in the next little bit. So we've been really busy. There's been some fun along the way too. We did a trip to the planetarium here on the UTA campus last night. Tonight we're doing a barbecue together. So with that, I'm going to mostly shut up and let our participants talk a little bit. So I'm going to open the floor to them, and I'm going to hit them with a few questions. If anyone outside the workshop has questions they'd like, please put it in the chat or raise your hand and ask. We'll gladly get to them. So let me open the floor, and hopefully someone will volunteer, maybe many someone's. Let's just put it this way. What have you learned so far? What's the one thing at this point that is just really sticking with you from this workshop experience? And I will start calling on names if I have to. Doing the stare down. Oh, Shirley's got a question. I'll let Shirley's question trump mine. Go for it, Shirley. Let's see if maybe you can get people going.
Actually, the question's for you, Chip.
Oh, I don't want questions, Shirley. That's not right. What's the
Well,
question, Chip?
I thought you could lead by example.
Okay, that's terrible, but go for it.
So you're a seasoned veteran of leading many of these workshops, and
Yep.
my question for you is, how have workshops evolved through the time that you've been part of Ionic and VIPER, and what have you found about this workshop that that is especially invigorating or interesting to share?
So the first couple of workshops that I was involved with, we were doing a full week with multiple expert speakers, and it was kind of overwhelming. It was a lot of great chemistry to hear and talk about, but wow. It was a lot to just flip-flop between work of 3 or 4 different people. I think doing the workshops now in this kind of shorter time format, and really focused in one particular area is a really good development and extension of what we had done. So I really like that. What have I found invigorating about this one so far? I would say we got a great mix of participants. I think they're getting along super well. They're working hard. I think they've all brought a lot of energy and have been incredibly productive. And I really like the mix of people with a little more experience and people still in graduate school. and I hope we're all learning from each other. So I think that's been a really good thing. And as Danny just posted, we got to meet UTA's mascot this morning. We got pictures with Blaze. So that was unexpected, but fun. Okay, so hopefully that answered your question, Shirley. Um, let's go back to my original question and see if we can put our participants in the spot and get someone to maybe comment something. What have you learned? What do you feel like you're gonna take home at this point in time?
Okay, I will bite the bullet.
Okay, thanks, Danny.
Does this sound okay inside? I'm
Yeah.
assuming I'm far away enough. Okay. One thing that Amy and I were talking about was how much solid state chemistry we learned. So not only from Robin's talk, which was super interesting, and I loved how she incorporated some like undergrad teaching things to her talk, which was really good to see how does a more seasoned teacher like teach it. But also like just the basics of solid state chemistry, some of the discussions in the LO fixing groups and the LO creating groups with people from the solid state community. That was really good. I also like all the different ideas that I've heard about specs grading and ways to assess and all these things that we were discussing today, or different ideas on how to incorporate, maybe how to make your classroom a bit more accessible, how to lower the barrier to ask questions. Some of those things were really good. And I think in general, it's just nice to hear how different people teach in organic chemistry, depending on what their students' backgrounds are, or like how maybe your students haven't taken PChem or they have, and those different things. So it's been really interesting.
What did you know about specs grading heading into the workshop?
I do specs grading for my Gen Chem class. I kind of inherited that from my more senior colleagues who were doing it already. But I'm interested in seeing how I could incorporate it into my senior level classes. So
Okay.
see that.
Looks like Amy's unmuted herself, so I'm gonna see if she's gonna chime in here. Maybe not. Sorry, we might have a tech issue or something. We've got a lot of people in one room. Oh, Amy's moving over. Hijack another computer. She might even be headed this way.
Here you go.
Oh, she's heading over towards Joyce.
Here you go. Hello, I'm Amy in Joyce's personal space right now. Yeah, I think the thing that I really enjoyed is hearing about how brave everyone has been with experimenting with new things, getting rid of, physical textbooks, trying online textbooks, and implementing new grading schemes. I think that's really encouraged me to, get out of my comfort zone and just try new things that I've been really excited about. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that I've gotten from this workshop, and I'm really, really grateful.
What do you think is the biggest leap you're gonna take? Oh, she ran away on me.
Leap.
Yeah.
I think it's the textbook. I'm gonna get rid of physical textbooks.
Okay.
We'll see.
You can do it. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Anyone else? I feel like I can probably guilt Mitch into it since he's just kind of here in the same lobby as me.
I hid myself. You can't find me anymore.
Nice try.
I am actually, I think, so I am one of those uh, Ionic, I'm Ionic VIPER users that just lurks around. I look at all the stuff and I copy everything and I take it and I use it and I feel like I don't really give back until now, I guess, where I think it was, I was maybe, I didn't know what qualified to be able to put it out. Like how good does this have to be? How many times did I have to implement this to make sure that it was worth everybody's time to see it up on the web? Maybe I should have recognized that things on the internet don't need to be super great, and therefore my stuff can go up there. And or maybe I'm just not as you know, I didn't realize just how much effort I put into stuff, and that makes it worthwhile to add it alongside everybody else's. And so having this whole workshop to teach me how to bring it up and get it up there, putting learning goals beside it if I hadn't already done that, that's been really nice.
Very cool. You know, we certainly love and appreciate our lurkers. That is an officially accepted community kind of term. People that just take stuff from the site and use it, and that's great. That's what it's there for. But we appreciate that you're willing to take the next step. As Shirley threw into the chat there, you know, you contributed greatly to the community in the SLiTHER earlier on getting a faculty position, which was awesome. Yes, let's make it an LO. The answer to everything. But no, really appreciate those comments. And you know, we're not a scary bunch. Hope everyone's learned that. It's a pretty low bar to getting things on the site. And you know, if it was valuable to you, it's going to be valuable to somebody else. Great. No, not at all, Danny. You're not scary. Anyone else? You know, this is the scary part. The, oh my God, who might he call on next? That's probably the worst part of this. Let's see, is Hillary on there? I see a Hillary. Do you have anything from a LC perspective? Oh yeah, I need my random number generator. Oh, I've got that right here.
Trying to think. I mean, I was very disappointed that I wasn't able to see most of Robin's talk, but one of the things that really struck me from her talk was how many opportunities there are to bring make solid state chemistry accessible to people who don't necessarily have a background in it. And I'm really looking forward to using some of the learning objects that are coming out of this. So that's my input.
Okay, before I go to the dreaded random number generator, does anyone else want to comment? Jonathan, go for it.
So, yeah, like I actually end up teaching a lot of the organic sequence. So I haven't had a chance to teach the inorganic. So I've been a little bit in the dark about what different groups sort of teach, because I would teach something very organometallic based since that's what I'm comfortable with. I guess I say I'm in the dark, but that's not just because it's like I'm physically dark on here. I think if I take this off, it lightens up actually. Yeah. Anyway, so it's been sort of interesting to see like that everyone teaches basically like in a way tailored toward their students, and then the other aspect is tailored toward like what they're comfortable with or sort of excited about. The other aspect that I've really enjoyed is like we worked on this N5 plus cation paper, and we tailored it down to a Gen Chem class, which is pretty rare that you see literature in Gen Chem. And this project was like, at first when I was reading this, I was like, this isn't good for Gen Chem, right? But then as we worked on it more and more, it's like, oh, actually, this is like perfect to add to a Gen Chem class. And so I think we're submitting or have just submitted the LO for review. I thought that was sort of an interesting aspect. Like normally I wouldn't take any lit directly into Gen Chem, but I think it's totally doable. So
Very cool. We've got another question in the chat here about how to make solid state more accessible to undergraduates. I believe Hillary made a comment along those lines. Did any of our participants get a feel or something from Robin's talk about how you might make some of this more accessible? I know some of the learning objects that were developed based on Robin's work were definitely more geared towards a general chemistry or a foundational level in organic kind of class. So did we pick up anything in particular that?
I think we looked at the very basics, like starting from, and this is something that Robin did at the beginning of her talk, was showing, okay, these are the atoms, like these are the elements that we're going to look at. These are electronic configurations, like kind of looking at what are the valence orbitals, how do those turn into bands, like in a very simple way, like kind of like the, okay, you have sigma bonding, sigma anti-bonding, and now if you have an infinite chain of atoms, these turns into like two boxes and those are your bands, right? And really sticking to, I think this is both what she did in her talk and what we're doing for the LO that we're creating, really sticking to the basics and how we can get those out. And so there are lots of band diagrams in some of those papers, like those spaghetti diagrams or whatever. And yes, they look confusing, but we were emphasizing, okay, this bunch of spaghetti here is like, actually you can just draw a box on top of it and that's what it is, right? So I think that, and that's part of what I've been learning these past couple of days, how you can keep it, like always go back to the basics and work from there. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's the idea that we've been trying to work with.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that was an answer. And as is suggested in the chat, Robin did give a very good introductory talk, and we're hoping to get her to make 5 slides about that for the website. Kind of a historical approach, and some good foundational information. Do any of our other participants have any thoughts or insights about how they might see being able to bring solids into an undergraduate classroom a little bit easier after this experience? Joyce.
Hi, everyone. I'm a first year assistant professor at Cal State San Bernardino, and I'm also here at the workshop. Actually, learning to scaffold is what I've learned I've taken out of this workshop. So I'm a solid state chemist, so I look at a structure and immediately I'm thinking chemical bonding interactions, how to break down the extended solids into fragments. And so I wanted the student to be able to look at a structure and give me the chemical composition, but I didn't realize that there are many steps to get there. And so our group kind of broke down that one question I had into 4 different parts, and having the student look at crystallographic data to derive the chemical composition. And so I think that learning to scaffold is what I'm doing here. And so instead of the extended solid being completely 3-dimensional, we're breaking them into molecular fragments, for instance, of tetrahedra or octahedra. So that's one thing. And then we also try to use periodic trends in making the solid state concepts more accessible to students. So thanks.
Yeah, Robin did a nice job of that in her talk on band gaps in the carbon family, and looking at periodic trends and leading us through that. So I think it's only natural that you'd be doing that as part of your LO. She set that up very nicely. So good. Any other folks out there have something they'd like to comment on? All right, let me go a little different direction here. related, but would anyone be willing to comment, or maybe a couple people comment on, did you know what you were getting yourselves into here? Have we kind of hit your expectations at all? We can accept brutal honesty. That would be fine, but sure love your opinion of, you signed up for this workshop with these weird snake people, as Steve likes to refer to us as. What are your thoughts there? I sense the random generator. Ellen, we haven't heard from you yet.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Um, so I actually went to a workshop in 2015 when we had 3 speakers, and yeah, it was a little overwhelming, but I learned so much. But the best thing about that workshop and this workshop is really the interaction with the community and how much I'm learning about how other people teach and how they approach different subjects, and they're in organic classes and in their Gen Chem classes and just kind of across the spectrum. And so it's really getting to interact with peers, especially after the last year and a half of being pretty isolated. It's really nice to see people in person too.
Very good. Olivia, sure.
Well, as a graduate student, I clearly don't get a ton of opportunity to talk to a lot of different people in education or just really teaching outside of general chemistry. So I've never really considered bringing literature into a Gen Chem classroom, but I think, especially as somebody who's also not a solid state chemist, the fact that you can take a paper and break it down into general chemistry concepts, I think is really powerful. And it's definitely something that has sparked my interest, and I'm definitely going to think about it a lot more as I kind of continue trying to develop teaching skills.
Well, as one of our graduate students who's been willing to turn their camera on, I'll keep you under pressure here just a tiny little bit. There were, I guess, it's a little weird of a dynamic here with some of these established faculty, but we thought it was really important to bring in some potentially future faculty and that sort of thing. Have you felt like you've been part of the group, an active contributor? And
I think so. Everybody's been really great and helpful. I honestly was part of why I was really interested in doing this was to get kind of some advice just from other people in the field. And what's cool is I haven't actually had to ask for any of it. Everybody's just been like, oh my gosh, yeah, you should do this. Oh my gosh, like, have you considered this? Like, don't limit yourself over here, but like also stay true to yourself. And it's just been, I don't know, maybe this is just education in general, but everybody's been really supportive without even like asking, I guess. So I feel heard, and I feel like a part of it. So it's been really nice.
Great. I see that got some laughs from Kayla, so maybe I'll just ask her just a thumbs up. That's what I'm going to get.
So it has been really fun to work with the graduate students, and I think that calibrating where we are this year versus where we've been the last year and a half has been really nice. We've all kind of been isolated, and this is really the first time, at least for me, to get out and talk to a lot of people from other universities and share stories and just check in. And it's just been really nice to have a sense of community and to meet new people. So it's been really rewarding to meet those new graduate students. And I had the realization that I'm now one of those more established people, and I'm gonna have to come to terms with that.
Scary.
Yeah, understood there. It's the way it goes. But let's see if I'm looking at things correctly. I think we've got Joanne and Abdul, who are logged on participants who haven't said anything yet. I think Joanne officially now holds the record for the participant to come the longest distance to a workshop.
Yes.
I think by far she's got that record. So yes, thank you for coming all this way. So that a lot of travel involved there for you. Do you have any thoughts, what you've learned or picked up that you think is going to be helpful to you as you progress on through the next year plus?
Yes, that definitely. So inorganic chemistry is one of the students in my university look at it. So I'm from the Philippines. So the students look at it as one of the hard courses and they do not want to take it, but it's required in their curriculum. So I think I got one of the things that I really like to include is the appreciation of the literature. So I've been finding it hard to incorporate that in my discussion. So through this, because usually in the past, I typically just pick out an article and then include that in the exam. But some tips that I've been getting here is that maybe I give them the article beforehand and then give them the questions beforehand actually, so they can prepare about it. And also some other activities like I like the one figure learning object because really they really don't need to read the whole article. So in fact, maybe just a paragraph or maybe just a figure is important in the discussion. So I like doing that. So just focusing on a figure, but still I'm introducing them to and hopefully make them appreciate reading literature more. So that's I like about this.
Great. And a free plug there for one flows. We've got several of these one figure learning objects, or one flows as they're affectionately referred to, on the site. We could use more. So that's not just on Joanne, that's to the community in general, whether you're watching us here live today or catching this on YouTube later. They're not too bad. You just need a figure and some questions to go with it. So that'd be good. I don't know if Abdul's got his camera running or not, or would be willing or have anything he wanted to add, but I certainly want to give him an opportunity to do so. I see Paul has snuck on also, but let's go to Abdul first.
Yes, thank you, Chip. Well, when I signed up, I wasn't sure of what I was signing up for, but on getting here, I see that the workshop is done differently. We are really put to work. We have to do a lot of hands-on on our own. We were not talked to, so I like that part of the way the workshop has been organized. And even though I have taught inorganic at 2 other institutions before I got to this, my third institution, and I've taught it in a certain way, I guess how I learned inorganic chemistry, mostly by lecture. But then my interacting with colleagues over here and how they have approached teaching inorganic and also the assessment approaches as well. So I'm taking a lot of things, and it has gotten me thinking about the kind of changes I'm going to make. I'll be teaching inorganic this fall. So I plan to introduce a lot of in-class activities, literature discussions, most likely, even though I have just a few weeks to prepare, but at least I'll introduce a couple of them, maybe not everything.
No, and that's exactly it.
Yeah. How it works. So that's my plan. It has got me thinking, at least I have 2 weeks or so to prepare, at least maybe introduce a few things that I haven't been doing previously. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to doing so, and maybe, I hope it works.
And some of it will, some of it might not, but the big thing is a willingness to try to make changes and see what happens there. And you're absolutely right. You can't change everything in one fell swoop. But my sincerest hope is that you do a lit discussion or two and the students love them. So then next year you're up to 4, or maybe something along those lines. Great. Thank you. Paul, what do you have to add for us?
Hi, good afternoon. I guess 3 things. 1, I'm glad to have met Flo in person. too. A little bit repetitive of what was kind of said earlier, but I was someone who kind of came from a position where we didn't really talk about F orbitals very much, even though I'm responsible for inorganic. You know, our acronyms were S for sphere, P for peanut, D for double peanut, and F for freaking hard to draw. And when you generally leave people on that, you know, I can see the students kind of wanting more. And to kind of echo what people had said, I thought Robin did a great job of summarizing that in a manner that says, look, you can know a lot about the F orbitals just from how they trend through SP to D, even though you don't know them specifically, and how things get softer as you get heavier, and kind of using some of those theories that you can kind of build off of. Oh, thanks. There she is. I didn't know she was a puppet either. But how you can use those trends that undergrads learn in year one and apply that to say, hey, these things that are actually really scary, and you might not need to know how they split, or you might not need to know how they make molecular orbitals, but you can be predictive of their properties. And the semiconducting application was a fantastic way of doing that, because they already get the sense of where the F orbitals fill and kind of go from there. So I thought Robin really gave me a really elegant way to put F orbitals into a curriculum without needing to sacrifice the freaking hard to draw acronym that we like to pass on to them. And then the third one, I think, was that I'm among several people here who have had at least maybe half of their teaching careers occupied by the pandemic. And so this whole learning how to teach experience has been heavily modified by that. And so I know that I'm motivated to change a bunch of stuff. And some of that change is scary. And being around people who have, taught BC before COVID, for a long period of time, and being able to say, like, hey, are my ideas like sensical, and people who are at other institutions that aren't my own, because that has been of significant help, especially in talking about specs grading and some of these other things. So I appreciate being among that cohort for that reason.
Great, thank you.
I'm keeping flow, by the way.
We might have words about that. All right. Do we have any other questions from our non-participants? I don't want to steal all the time here. So if anyone has any, or even if our participants have any questions that they want to ask of the leaders, Hillary. Pretty quiet out there. What's next for the workshop? That's an excellent question, Mitch, and you'd think a leader would be able to answer that. I know we're going to be talking about issues of DEIJ a little bit later this afternoon. That's definitely a big topic for us. Shirley asked if all the workshop participants are on the VIPER Pit Discord. Not yet. That's something we're talking about in the future, but our participants did create our own Discord channel for the workshop. So we're on a Discord, not the VIPER Pit one per se. But that has been a useful means of communication. And yeah, we're going to be pitching. We pitched the VIPER Pit Discord channel a little bit already. And we will certainly do so as we. Oh, the next workshop in 2020. Are there any plans yet? Yes, Mitch, that is an excellent question. I believe Hillary is somehow involved in that, so I will let her.
Okay. Yeah, we are in the early stages of planning, but our plan is to have the next workshop in 2022 is going to be in late June of that year, and it is going to be at Cal Poly Pomona, so down in Southern California, and Vince Lavallo is going to be our expert speaker. So we're just in the early stages, but we're getting there. So if there are people out in the audience or who may be watching this SLiTHER sort of after the fact, we encourage you to, we'll be publicizing on VIPER and through the Discord and various places the application process for the one in 2022 in the fall. So please apply, because we'd love to have another good crop of participants for that workshop.
And we are in the midst of starting to write our next grant. So it is hoped that these types of workshops will continue into the at least somewhat distant future. You know, we are hoping to rotate them around to different areas in the country. That's one of the reasons we came down here to Arlington. We had never really been south of, well, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, I believe. So we headed down this way. We've been in the West Coast before at Seattle, but heading to SoCal will be a good next location for us. And hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do a few more of these and bounce around to several other places maybe we haven't been to before or haven't been to for a number of years. So again, stay tuned to the VIPER website, and we'll be announcing those future plans as they come into focus. Nicole, did you have anything to add? Add away.
Yeah, so I'm running both computers right now. That's why you haven't seen me yet. So I think I was at that Chapel Hill workshop back in.
Don't say it.
Been to 2 workshops, and now I'm on the other side as a workshop leader. So it's been really interesting to see that. But one takeaway that I've kind of taken from this, there we go, is that I think there's a barrier for people to submit that first LO. So being at the workshop is a good place to break that like down, that it's not as scary, kind of like Mitch was saying, like, well, I could submit that as an LO. But kind of working through that process with someone right there to troubleshoot for you and explain where it's going to go after you submit it and how things work with that. So I don't know if there's a way for us to make that more widespread so that not just workshop participants get that experience. It's something I think we should think about. How do we submit these LOs?
Yes, just because we're leaders doesn't mean we can't learn lots of things at these workshops too. So good idea for sure. Yep, Shirley's right. There's what, 3 members of the leadership council that were at that Chapel Hill workshop. So maybe a virtual workshop indeed, Hillary. I don't know that I'm ready for a virtual one, a virtual anything anytime soon. Yep, Abby was at the Chapel Hill workshop too, for sure. I'd be happy to not do things virtual for a little while. That might be up to Delta, whether or not that's going to be true or not. But ooh, a working SLiTHER. Oh, look at that. Nicole should be on Team SLiTHER with a crazy idea like that. Oh no, it's already gotten love from Hillary. So we'll put it on the list of future SLiTHERs. And you know, just as a quick little SLiTHER plug here, we are always looking for ideas of new SLiTHERs that you'd be willing to host, or you'd like us to do. So please feel free to contact me or any of the other members of Team SLiTHER. We see Matt here is another member of Team SLiTHER. And Sarah's on board too. Day long or half day LO events. Yep. We're hoping to do a few more of those kind of work days, community building, LO development kind of things. So again, stay tuned to the VIPER website, Discord, which you can find on our website, www.ionicviper.org. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. So if you're not following us on social media, you should certainly consider doing that. Yes, Shirley.
I was just going to chime in a little bit about other ways that workshop participants can stay involved, and these are not by any means like you have to go all the way from workshop participant to all of a sudden doing VIPER stuff once a week. There are different levels. You could be an LO reviewer, and then our LO coordinator Anthony contacts you maybe once a semester, once a school year to review an LO that someone else in the community wrote, and it's a great process because you end up having these good conversations and dialogues and seeing some really cool LOs. So I highly encourage people to do stuff like that. And for those who want to kind of build up, we have all these committees, all these teams that do things like Team SLiTHER, and it's not necessarily like a huge workload. So you can find a team that kind of slots in and fits with your schedule. And we're happy to talk to you about any of those teams. And as Chip mentioned, we're working on the next grant, and there will be these future opportunities. And some of the people on the call already have been or are VIPER fellows. And we have in our future grant some more fellowship opportunities coming up. So if you're loving this and you want to be involved in a more long-term capacity, there will be more opportunities in the near future, we hope.
All right. Well, I think if I don't see any other hands, that will take care of everything I can think of. If anyone has any parting comments, I'll give you a quick opportunity here. Those LOs are coming soon, Carmen. Don't worry. We're working on them. We're getting them reviewed. So we should have them up to date. All right. Well, with that, I will say thank you all for tuning in, whether live or on YouTube.